Hello my crafty friends, this is Monica from Allsewpetite. Welcome back to my channel. If like me you have a cork, vinyl or faux leather scraps and you don't know what to do with them, then keep on watching because I have a fun and quick project for you. In today's tutorial I will show you how to make a bookmark pen holder. I have two versions, small and large one, and two types of closures. One with a press snap and one with a loop. So you can just insert that flap inside. This is a fantastic project to get rid of those smaller pieces of cork, vinyl or faux leather that you don't really know what to do with, that are too small to make a bag, pouch or a wallet, but are big enough that you can use for something else. You can play with different colors, types of fabrics, so you can mix cork or faux leather like me on this one here, or make a plain and simple version. And why not use a fun and interesting elastic to give a little bit more details. If you are anything like me, you like your sewing journals and your notebooks and you can never find a pen or a pencil nearby. So pen holder just like this, it's fantastic to keep everything in one place, especially if you don't really want to carry a big pouch or a pencil case with you at all times. And also it is a fantastic bookmark, so when you have your book with you, you can just mark it and you don't have to worry about losing piece of paper, receipt, picture or anything else that you usually use to bookmark your pages. I provide a PDF pattern for this project on my blog. I will leave the link to the pattern and all supplies I used in this tutorial in the description box below. If you would like to learn how to make this bookmark pen holder, then keep on watching. To complete the project, you would need some non-fraying fabric such as vinyl, cork or faux leather. And because this is a scrap busting project, I took some of my larger scraps from my stash and I'm going to go through them to see if I can find big enough piece. You also need an elastic. I'm using 16mm elastic for this project. And depending on which type you're making, either the one with the press snap or the one with the loop, you might need extra hardware. If you are making the one with the press snap, you obviously need one set of press snap, or alternatively, you could use a magnetic closure. You need a ruler and some sort of cutting tools. So you might use normal scissors to cut your fabric or a rotary cutter. If you are using rotary cutter, you also need a healing mat. Otherwise, you might use a retractable knife or X-Acto knife or a similar tool that you prefer. We'll also need some snips to cut our thread. I like to have an owl on hand to help me guide the fabric underneath the machine. A seam ripper in case if something goes wrong. Your favorite marking tools. If you are using press snaps, you will also need some sort of setting tools. I'm going to use my hand press today for that. You also need some clips to hold the fabric in place. A hole puncher or a similar tool that make holes is required today. And depending on the weight of your fabric, you might need multi-surface glue or spray adhesive to stick two pieces together. Otherwise, you can always use double-sided tape. As mentioned on the pattern, you might need to cut one or two pieces of the fabric. This will highly depend on the weight of your fabric. So to give you an example, for the smaller version today, I'm going to mix all these colors. And I have a faux leather that is quite lightweight and flimsy. If I make the bookmark pen holder, it might be a little bit soft and I prefer more sturdy ones. So I'm going to back it up with another piece of similar fabric. This one is also faux leather and it's also lightweight, the same weight as this one. So I'm going to use one piece as a lining. However, for the larger version, I'm going to mix this faux leather, which is much heavier than the one that I have here, and I'm going to mix it with this heavyweight cork, which means I don't need any more stabilizing because this is nice and sturdy on itself. Hence, I only need to cut one piece for my bookmark. Whenever I'm using a lightweight fabric that I need to use 2 pieces of, I like to take my glue or a spray adhesive and glue those 2 pieces wrong sides together before I trace and cut my pattern pieces. If you are using double-sided tape, I would cut 1 piece from your fabric and then apply double-sided tape to the wrong side of the fabric, stick it to your second piece, and then you could cut it around the first piece. It might be easier this way than cutting 2 separate pieces and then putting them together and matching them exactly. Whatever you use, make sure you can sew it through. Whenever you are using spray adhesive, make sure you do it in a well-ventilated room because you don't want to inhale all that nastiness. Depending on the type of the closure you are making, you either need to cut extra piece for the loop. I like to cut my loop about 15 millimeters wide, and then I always cut it slightly longer than the width of the pattern piece, so I can always adjust it if needed. On the back pattern, you have to mark those markings here. This is where we're going to insert the elastic, as you see on this example here. You will also need to transfer the X markings, which is the placement of the press snap or the magnetic snap closure. So you have both on the front and on the back. One thing I want to mention before we proceed is that those slits are good for an elastic that is up to 2 centimeters wide. If you are using much smaller elastic, like for example this one, which is about 1 centimeter wide, you might want to consider shortening the slits. So move those little dots closer to the center. This way, when you feed your elastic, the elastic won't move as much and it will sit nice and snugly. Before I install my press snap, I like to top stitch the top of my back piece and also the top of my front piece, especially if I glued 2 pieces of fabric together. If you are using a single piece, like this one here, you can skip that step. However, I like to do it as a decoration stitch anyway. Now I'm going to install my press snap. Now we're going to insert our elastic through the slits on our back piece. But before we do, we want to measure the length of the elastic that we need. So what I would normally do is to take my elastic, wrap it around my book, tighten it a little bit, and then cut the length that is needed. Okay, once you have the right size of elastic, we're going to feed it through those slits on our back pieces. In case if you have elastic that has a right and wrong side, like the one that I have here, you need to feed it from the back in the way that the right side of your elastic is facing up. You're going to insert it through the slit closer to the bottom edge. Make sure your elastic is not twisted, and then you're going to feed the other end through the top slit, just like that. Take those 2 loose ends, overlap them by about 1/2 or 2 centimeters, depending on how you measured it. You can just clip that in place. And then we're going to stitch a little box and maybe like a stitching lines inside to strengthen the seam. Alternatively, you can just grab your elastic, making sure it is not twisted, place right sides together, just like that. Line it up. You can just clip that as well. Then you can stitch a straight line here, attaching those two pieces together. So your elastic will look like this once stitched. Then if you want, you could open those seams and then stitch those two shorter edges as well, whichever way you like. I'm going to do both to show you what I mean. When this is done, you're going to take your front piece and we're going to place it on top of the back piece. So the wrong side of the fabric, so the inside of your bookmark, are facing each other. You're going to line up the front piece on top and you can just clip it in place. Whenever you're making the version with the loop, make sure you mark your loop placement on the front piece. So on this one I use the chalk so you can see more clearly. You don't really have to mark the entire line, you can just mark a little notches inside. Whatever you do, make sure you use a removable pen or something that you can just wipe it off, because obviously you don't want the permanent markings. Take your front piece and with wrong sides together, place it on top of the back. Line it up and then clip it in place. You can stitch those three sides, then take your loop, line it up, stitch one end. You're going to close it so you know roughly if you need any space. Line it up on the other side and then stitch the other side. But because I like to have a one seam, I'm going to do that in one go. So I'm going to line it up, clip it. I'm going to close the flap, line it up as well at the other side. And then I can clip that in place. If you want, you can just cut straight away the tail. I like to do it after I stitched. Congratulations, the bookmark pen holder is now completed. If you enjoyed this tutorial, let me know in the comment section. And if you would like to see a tutorial that uses a woven fabric for this project, then give us a thumbs up. If this video reaches 100 likes, I will make another tutorial. See you next time. Stay crafty, friends.